In India, people to teacher ratio, it's 30:1. For every 30 students, there's one teacher. In the US, it's 12.5:1.
Okay.
There's this economics Nobel laureate, her name is Claudia Goldin. She said in one of her research work that all women work, but not all get paid. I'd like to say that all interns work, but not all get paid.
Say if any other person was living in Kolkata, not in Delhi, and they had got this opportunity, which
forget
they were
even Kolkata, be it any small town, but they're extremely hardworking, extremely talented.
They wouldn't have been able to pay for their rent and anything
because the cost of living is high.
Even if you're a student, you have to come from a certain stable family to be able to do that unpaid internship.
That's what I said. Like you and I are privileged enough to go to places and then stay over there.
Because you know, in India also the colleges don't really have on-campus jobs for students. Like in the US or the UK, where they have various, like in the US they have a lot of options for students to work on campus, right? So international students work on campus, national students also work on campus or do other part-time jobs, so they have this option and their families are okay with them doing so. But in India, if you try doing a part-time job which is not so reputable, say, then people judge you or people look down on you. Do you think this mindset needs to be broken?
There is this infrastructure problem in India. For example, when you say that we can do a part-time job, we are saying it from a very urban perspective. But now think of because 69% of India is still in rural areas, and there also people definitely go to colleges. Where's the job opportunity? It's not there. Don't read it just because I want to get there. Just read because you like reading it. If you don't know something, it's completely fine. Everyone does not know everything because there are many things which you know which I don't.
Correct. Hello and welcome to another new episode of Student Voice Matters. This is your host Sonalika Goswami. And today we have with us our guest Rush Guha, with whom we'll be talking about the importance of internships and in various ways how to get those internships in India, and currently how encouraging the professors and our industrial or educational sectors about the idea of internship. Rush, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you to you, Sonalika, for inviting me after 2 years since we passed out from college.
Yeah.
It's glad to meet you again.
Same. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Rush.
Hello guys, my name is Rush Guha. I have an undergraduate degree in computer science from St. Xavier's College, Kolkata. After which I went to Delhi to further my education in the same. Currently I am working with the IUCN CESP Asia group. In the past I have worked with the United Nations Finance for Development team as an economics affairs research intern. I am currently deeply passionate about research work in computer science, economics and sociology, and love reading books and try to expand my area of interest as much as possible.
Rush, very interestingly, you are pursuing a degree and you have been doing a degree previously as well in computer science.
Yes.
But your area of interest in research lies in something vastly based on economics. Why this difference?
Actually, it was purely out of interest. During my undergrad in St. Xavier's, I was so it was not like as if it was the first time I was into research. In the undergrad also, we had published a paper, research paper in the field of computer science only. But then I started reading books, for example, books like Poor Economics by Abhijit Banerjee and Duflo, and it sparked the curiosity inside me. So I wanted to explore it. So that's why when I went to Delhi, I took economics as a minor subject. From there, that interest sparked, and then the rest is history.
So then, since you already had grown your interest back in the undergrad, why didn't you decide to pursue something similar in your master's? Why did you choose to continue with computer science only?
Actually, good question. I actually had this question in my mind also, but then I talked it out with my professors also that drastic shift would be too much. So rather supplementing it with a minor would definitely help rather than completely tracking off from the track of computer science.
Right. So is in any way what you're researching about related to what you're studying, or are they like completely different?
Actually, that's the thing. There's a lot of gap between what you study and what you actually work on. But the thing in economics is that what you really see around you, it's actually what is being happening. Everything, for example, what's happening in the markets, the inflation rates, the growth rates, the per capita income, you can see it. It's just that it's a bit more theoretical. So in economics, the lag is much less, but in computer science, definitely, because it's not really happening around you, apart from your mobile phones or the laptops that you use.
So you have been studying computer science and now you have research in economics. So do you think if the course would in abroad, if you're doing undergrad, I have heard that there are options where you can do major in one subject and minor in a completely different subject, because both can be your area of interest. So do you think if they would have this kind of an option in your undergrad, that would have sort of helped you juggle between both, and that would have helped you gain a lot more insight into these internships?
Okay, let me just simplify the thing. I think you are trying to ask that whether multidimensional...
Correct, multidimensional courses.
Yeah, courses can be helpful for us,
right?
I will give you a very analytical perspective to it. Firstly, there is an infrastructure problem in India. For example, Sonalika, just imagine your Boston University's campus for 1 second. It's huge, right? The classrooms, they are huge.
I mean, they are good enough.
They are good enough. In India, the people to teacher ratio, it's 30:1. For every 30 students, there's one teacher. In the US, it's 12.5:1.
Okay.
When we talk about multidimensional courses, also, although it has been incorporated in the NEP 2020, the problem is that we have a lack of infrastructure. For example, if there's a very unique candidate who wants to study a very not so natural courses simultaneously, for example, film studies with computer science, doesn't go right.
Doesn't go together, but can definitely interest a person. Like yours itself, economics with computer science.
That still goes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like completely unrelated.
Yeah, completely unrelated things. Imagine now this course being there in Boston University. Definitely a room with a teacher would be allotted, right? Am I correct or not?
Correct. Yeah.
But imagine the same scenario in India. There are few number of classrooms. Where will the teacher and the student sit to study? Right. There's this infrastructure problem. Right. And also, I believe that now...
Even you also have to understand that the faculty, might not be... Because we have one professor... I mean, this goes in US as well, where one professor can teach two courses that are somewhat related, but different courses. But in India, again, you'll see there are few professors who throughout the 3 years of undergrad teach different papers. Whereas in the US, what I have experienced it is you do get same professors in 2 courses at max, but you get introduced to different professors in different semesters who do not teach in previous semester or whatever. But in India, I did meet new professors, yes, but I did see one professor teaching multiple courses throughout the 3 years. So I think even what you mentioned is the number of faculty is also very less compared to other countries.
In multidimensionality also, there is this thing which is also being looked into in silos. For example, it's multidimensionality now is like you're studying computer science, you can also study economics, one paper of economics. But the thing is, should be like, for example, land reforms in India. It should be like how the economics of land reforms was, how the sociological impacts of it was, how computer science can be used to update the land reforms and the policies in the future.
So many interrelating the two courses, right?
They are not quite integrated. They can be multidisciplined, but they are not integrated, well integrated. It has to be like the same thing has to be studied from different perspectives to get a holistic view of it. Don't you agree?
I agree. I completely agree. But I think right now what I'm hearing is in schools and boards, the questions are getting more practical based.
Yeah.
Like I was talking to this one teacher who has
I did watch that episode. Yeah. So it was fabulous.
Right. So Sir mentioned that now... Previously, it was like, what are the 3 qualities that help you in, like that should be there when electing a speaker. But now it's like, if you were a speaker and these were the argument, what is something that you'd suggest on that? Like, what would be your take on it? So that I think is a much more practical, hands-on experience, and you really have to study all those while also actually knowing how that thing works and how that thing helps. So it prepares you for the real world much more than just learning things theoretically, like you mentioned. So I would just, I would just like to ask one more thing from you. Like, do you think these are incorporated in India right now, like in college level, or do you think it's still a distant,
What the
the multidimensional course thing?
No, I think they have been policy-wise. Yes, they have been incorporated, but I think the way I think I talked to my college professors in my and from St. Xavier's College also, that they also talked that they also said that they also had a view that we have made our courses 4 years from 3 years. We have incorporated multidimensional courses where students have the option. But again, they boiled down to the one point. There were 2 points. One is teachers are not well trained to teach their students from this perspective, because they themselves studied in a
Traditional method. Correct.
that you study this course, you go this and you do this.
There's just one, I think, in our college, I can say in St. Xavier's, there's this one opening for, I think, our idea of multidimensional course. That was the elective.
Exactly.
So you could have computer science,
Yes.
but you could have an elective in film
Yes.
studies, and nobody stopped you. So
Yes.
that was your only area of exposure to other courses.
Exactly.
So I think, but that was still like a go from having an entire course, even having one elective
Yes.
throughout a year or throughout 2 years.
2 years.
Was also helpful, don't you think?
Yes,
there
definitely.
was also
Definitely was helpful.
What was your elective?
My elective was physics and.
So it was very much related to the field of
yes,
science.
yes. Not that I really liked it, but.
Okay.
And second thing, what she said was again the infrastructure problem, that we don't have the number of required classrooms, the number of teachers, because the same teacher might be utilized better in a different course. That teacher is being utilized in another course,
Right,
which
like
he
if
or
the
she-
traditional method is
Yes,
followed.
exactly.
Correct.
So I think this has to change.
So now that you are studying computer science, or you have had a bachelor's degree in computer science, did it in any way, or just come handy when you're doing your research? Anything that you have learned in your degree in computer science, does it?
Actually, definitely, it's my professors who have shaped me to become well acquainted with research. I mean, my professors in undergrad, for example, Dr. Romit Beed and Mr. Devobroto Dotto, I have worked with them throughout my college undergrad, and apart from that, I also did a research internship in Presidency University under the mathematics department's head of the department, Abhishek Odigari. They all taught me how to do research and how to read papers, how to make notes out of them, and then reiterate and reinterpret things from the same text that has been written.
So anything that you've studied there is something a part of your research as well? Any programming language or any part of the course?
Yes, Python definitely helps, because data visualization is very critical in economics. So Python did help a lot, but after that, ChatGPT and all the LLMs that have been released now, after that, the job is quite simpler. You can just feed the data and you get numerous interpretations out of that data.
When you say Python and when you should say data visualization and research, can you go a little bit into details for the people who have no idea what the...
Okay, definitely. For example, when I was working at the UN, my job was basically to have a macroeconomic aspect, a visual aspect of what's happening in the economies of South Asia. So in economics, there is a concept known as S-curve during poverty trap. I won't get into the intricacies of it, but what it simply means is basically how a person can escape that trap of poverty, that vicious cycle of poverty. So for that, they've not only their economic income, but also their social circumstances, their political circumstances, how they shape and make, not study them in silos. So that data visualization did help to have a holistic understanding of what's happening in that person's life, and how probably that person can escape that poverty trap.
Okay, so you mentioned UN.
Yes.
You did your internship from the United Nations, which is one of the biggest, which is one of the biggest agencies that we have around the world. So how was the experience working at the United Nations?
It was fabulous. No, without a doubt. Like, you get the best working facilities, the best data. You don't have. There's not much bureaucratic cholesterol over there. You just ask for it and it's there. For example, I still remember asking sir, I need this data, and he, within 2-3 days, he just managed to get the data from the Ministry of Environment and Sustainable Development, Ministry of Environment and Forest Climate Change. or the Department of Finance. So yeah.
What did you exactly work in the United Nations? What was your research focused on?
I was working with the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs with the Finance for Development team. So it was basically about the post-pandemic macroeconomic recovery of economies in the South Asia.
Okay. So, how did you get to this? How did you know about this internship?
And I rigorously networked with people on LinkedIn, and I use LinkedIn a lot. I connected with people. There's always these people who are there in the ivory tower. You just have to get a way to kind of reach to them out, and then connect with them and know how to get in. And I just knew how to get in. And then,
did this internship pop up in your timeline, or did somebody post it? I just want to know how you came across it.
Okay. No, I was actually pretty sure that I wanted to do a research internship at the UN.
Okay.
So I browsed to their website. It's known as UN Careers website. After that, you go there. You have to search which role you are applying for. Then you apply, and then you just apply with your CV and letter of purpose. That's it.
And do you have to give entrance examinations or anything?
Yes. After applying for it, along with your curriculum vitae and the letter of purpose, you get longlisted on the basis of that. After which the mail. After that mail, you have to. There is an
email you mean, or do they send you a letter?
Huh?
Do they send you a letter, or do they email you about it?
They email it.
Okay.
About that you have been longlisted.
Okay.
And they give a particular date and an email ID along with that, and they have an open book test. Where there'll be some questions which you have to type and then send to that email within a particular time frame.
Right.
For me, it was 1 hour.
Okay.
But this was before ChatGPT came. Now I don't know what the system is. And then after that, there are 2 rounds of interview. One was technical, and the other one was based on my curriculum vitae and letter of purpose.
I think there are definitely proctors and stuff that help to determine the screening if people are using some other sources or not. I'm sure the security is there.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that there is a part where you have to appear for the open book test, and even to appear for open book test, I feel like you should know what are the contents of the book.
Exactly.
And you had a degree which is totally different, no connection to economics or research based in UN. So how much of the studying did you have to do to prepare yourself for the entrance exam? And what are exactly the questions like?
Actually, for the first question is I didn't dedicatedly prepare for the interview. I had a knack of reading the newspaper, and I used to read books. And it's not that they ask you very technical questions. They ask you technical questions, but along with that, they also ask a very bird's eye view of what's happening in the economy. Do you know how to apply the things that you already know? That was, for example, there was one question. For example, there was something related to how Make in India program in India. You just give a detailed analysis of how you feel the program is working for India. Is it good, bad? You have to analyze it with proper facts, figures and data. And it's not that you have to agree with what's happening, but you can critique it. But do remember that you have to be formal in critiquing that too.
Okay. So you mentioned about entrance exam, and you gave the entrance exam, and then you got in. And what was the feeling like when you got in? Were you intimidated? What was the work environment like?
Actually I had applied for the Thailand office. It was I had applied under L Pimsai ma'am, but I took a remote location, and it was because their office is in Delhi, in South Delhi. So the first day I went there, it was in the month of January 2023 or 2022.
So this is after you graduated, you took up the internship
yes,
offer.
Yes.
So you were able to relocate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I already was in Delhi at that time.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was not a big deal. So the first day was I went there, and there are security guards who are you? So I just showed the email, because by that time they did not give me the ID card. So firstly, the thing that I noticed was definitely the building, and also there were cars which had blue colored number plates, and they were all top premium cars.
Right.
And then you go inside, there's always that sense of
oh my god,
excitement.
Yeah, right.
And then you meet the people, they are absolutely down to earth, humble people, ready to help you, ready to feed you with all kinds of knowledge and information in the world. It was excellent.
So how long was that internship?
Officially 6 months, but unofficially I did work with them for a longer period of time.
Right. So now you are in IUCN.
Yeah.
So how did you apply for this internship or this research organization?
Okay. See, in international relations, there are two jargons. That is black swan events and grey rhino events. Black swan events are those which happen for a short duration of time, but have a very long impact, and their impact is very deep. Compared to grey rhino events, which are sustainably happening over a period of time, which have minimal impact.
But the previous one that you mentioned, the example could be COVID.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, absolutely. It's the pandemic. It's one of the examples.
Yeah, and for the one you mentioned was grey
rhino events.
Grey rhino events. So those are like tsunamis or anything?
Recession.
The
Cold War.
Correct.
So mid 2022, there was this incident that not mid 2022, mid 2023, October 7, if I recall the date exactly.
Right, when the war started,
Yes.
when Palestine and Israel went into this.
Yes, went into this war. So then I realized that I was reading the newspaper, and then this article came out that how war has its own environmental impacts too. And that sparked the curiosity inside me, and then I started, surfing
Reading
the web. And there was this news like how the explosives that they make, how child labor is involved in that, and how socially it impacts the people around me.
If it's allowed, could you share some information, because that sounds really interesting. So whatever data you have found out, if you could share a little bit of insight on that, because I am very curious to know, about the child labor part, whatever you researched. If you could just share some information with us.
You asking about IUCN or both?
No, whatever you researched on, based on this topic.
Okay. For example, this whole markets of arms and explosives. People think that it's just to win wars, but it's also a capitalist propaganda to win those wars, because they have a huge incentive while selling those weapons. And whom are they selling to? It's definitely the countries in the global south, if you closely observe. For example, America is funding this war from the Israel side, right? And Israel is there in the global south. And here,
is it officially available somewhere that America is funding Israel?
Yes. Joe Biden recently
but is it like on official record? Can we like say it?
Okay. Definitely.
Yeah.
Because he's funding the war.
Correct.
And everyone knows it. So the explosives of the things that they make, there's intense amount of child labor which is being. It's not that it's directly there. For example, the material which is the means of production, what they call in economical terms, in that the child labor is involved, and that is now exported to some XYZ country where they are assembled, and this is how it is involved.
So what is the percentage of child labor involved? Is there any data about that?
I don't know the data.
Okay.
I don't know the data exactly.
So that is what interested you, and then how did you move forward, coming back to the IUCN part?
Again, I went to their website. I talked to people who were already working over there, how it was. So I again went to their website and again applied. Again, almost it's the same process, but there's some interesting things about them also. Here, there was just one round of interview. It was that's the difference.
In IUCN, there was just one.
Yeah.
So what is the working environmental or difference, because UN consists of all the countries, and like you said, you mentioned you applied for Thailand.
Yeah.
So what is the diversity like in working environment there? What is the work environment like? What are the key differences that you noticed working in these two places, if you could just mention a few?
Definitely the UN has more authority, but its spheres of authority are not that limited compared to that of IUCN, because IUCN is a body which is almost at the same stature of the US, but its authority is limited strictly to the environment. And also UN has treaties which countries sign or ratify, but IUCN does not have any strictly binding treaty. That's one difference. There are two incidents which happened during my internship at the UN. Can I talk about
please.
it? Yeah. So one was basically there was this in 2022 there was this military coup in South Sudan which was happening. So during that time the UN was raising funds to send it from India to send it to South Sudan for humanitarian aid. So there were investors who had come in, but there was this one investor, I remember, he came in with some quid pro quo demands that was out of the box demands, and he wanted those demands to be met in order to give the funding. So
what were the demands like?
I can't officially disclose that.
Okay.
Yeah. But definitely it was things which were not by the books. I think you get it.
Okay.
Yeah. So definitely after that I went to my room and then I talked to my seniors, and the next day we came up with a solution. I gave an idea after reading a book. I was luckily reading that book only during that time, and I asked my senior that why can't we, he's a very self-obsessed person, because we had done all the background research. The PR team was fabulous. And so I asked my senior that why can't we just name the fund on his name, like UN sends this fund from Mr. Z. So next day we proposed this to him, and luckily he accepted it.
So then those demands didn't need to be met.
No.
That is great. Okay. And what is the other incident?
The other incident you asked was, see, in IUCN the number of people who are coming in, there's this iron curtain. I mean, you do meet experts or policy experts, but the people whom you meet in UN are, for example, MPs. For example, I remember the MP who from TMC party who just resigned, Mr. Jawahar Sarkar. He had come over there, and we had met, and he got to know that I am a Bengali too. And then I requested him to, if I can get a gallery pass to the Rajya Sabha building, the old parliament building.
Okay.
So he met that demand. He gave me a pass. It was very kind of him.
I have to ask you to mention what that experience was like. What did you observe? What did you see?
Yes, definitely. That was like the two kinds of bureaucracy. At the international level and at the national level, they are meeting.
Right.
And it's bliss. It's absolute bliss, because there's this absolutely hard-working people in our country, and there's this super efficient team over there. So it was really nice to work with them.
Like, what did you know when you were in the parliament, when you were in the Rajya Sabha?
Okay.
What was that experience like? What did you observe?
I was there for the 0 hour.
Right.
The question hour.
The questions are asked. Yeah.
That was the 1 hour period.
Right.
So it was fun because I got to see the people who run the country from that legislature. It was really, really good experience.
Right. Now coming back to IUCN and UN, what is the diversity like? What is the, like, especially considering the amount of representation of both boys and girls, what are the differences in terms of that? Because I think the last time we were talking, you did mention about women representation being a little more in the UN as compared to, can you just talk about that?
No, exactly the opposite.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The number of the sex ratio, because the women in positions of authority, they are more in the IUCN compared to that of the UN.
Okay.
For example, in the IUCN, our team is headed by Miss Swayam Das and Ritu Dhingra. Both are luckily Indians, but also Iben Monk is the person who is heading the entire CASP team.
Right.
But compared to the UN, I did apply under El Pimsai ma'am, but most of the what I observed from that office was that more number of male candidates workers were there compared to that of female.
Right. And what is the diverse culture like? Like, are there people from all states, all countries? Where is the representation more?
See, because my office was at the UN I'm talking about, because my office was located in Delhi, so the people who were working there, some of them were Indians and some of them were also foreigners, but the working class people, they were from India only.
Right.
But
The people in authority were other.
Yes.
So when you have this cross-culture mix, what is the thing that you learn the most from, people from other countries with different cultures? What is something that you learn from this cross-culture environment, like say diverse culture environment?
One thing which I observed, actually very good question. Actually, you are more capable of answering this because I know that there was a paper, I guess there's a paper in your undergrad also, like media and culture, right?
Right.
So what I observed was that people from diverse backgrounds, they bring in their own experiences. For example, there was a guy from, I think, Georgia. He was extremely efficient.
Okay.
And he said that in our country, if a work needs to be done, it would be done in a few seconds if it has to be really be done. But in India, you will see like there is bureaucratic cholesterol, there will be red tapeism. And also in the IUCN, when I was working, almost in the first 2 weeks, there was this woman, her name is Mariam JJ. She's from Jordan. She gave real insights from what's happening, on-ground information of what's happening on the war site. For example, white phosphorus was being sprayed. That caused environmental hazards and how that was affecting children also.
So that is definitely very informative when you're working in a research environment. Yes. Going back to the entire picture of internship in India, how encouraging were your professors in college, both undergrad and masters, for you to get an internship? What was the importance given to internships during your course? I'll tell you why I asked this, because I did my masters from abroad and my undergrad from India. And in India, now I know that my college, St. Xavier's, has has a mandate where you have to have some hours of internship included as a part of your course. But when I was studying, we were never told, about getting an internship. We just heard our seniors do internship and we thought, okay, this sounds important, and which is why I applied for certain internships and I got them. But when I went abroad, I realized, or we were told, that internships are a mandatory part of our course. Like, I have to have an internship and I have to, complete that internship, and that would be counted as a part of my course. And I have to, that is a part of completing my master's degree itself. So, what I realized is the difference in importance given to internships. And even when I did my internship in my undergrad, I realized that, how much I learned from that. I was doing mass communication, but I did my, internship, and that's where I found my focused interest with which I did my master's. And even there, the internship, I learned so much. So basically, these internships give you a lot of practical in-hand experience. So these are important. So how much importance did your professors give in your undergrad and your master's, because you did both from India, towards internship?
Before coming to that, I'd like to clarify two things. One is basically, yes, India has now, as you said, that our undergrad college now has stipulated time enhanced for kept for internships,
right,
for which they are offering credits.
Right.
That comes under the new education policy 2020, which you said in your master's college, it was there already.
It was already there when I went abroad,
And the second thing, very important thing, is basically can you guess the percentage of GDP allocated to research and development in a country?
0 point something?
It's 0.67%.
Okay.
Whereas countries, for example, Israel, for that matter, they spend 4% of the GDP.
And what is it like in US? Because I did my master's in US and I saw that
2.5%.
So which is huge compared to...
It's huge. And that's actually quite similar to what our entire education budget is.
Okay, what is
2.1%?
Okay, so there's like big difference between what is...
Yes.
Okay.
So coming back to the question is basically, I truly agree with what you said, that none of my professors did encourage me, that implicitly encourage me. Had I reached to them,
of course they would have said,
yes,
go get an internship.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly as you and I from the same college.
But different departments. That's why I wanted to know what your department was like.
Same.
Okay.
Like seniors did internships, and I just got to know that there's this thing called internship, which happens where you get to apply that knowledge, because after reading books and stuff, you have to apply this knowledge. to know how to use that existing knowledge. Because I think what I learned at the IUCN is that people can be really smart. They can have limited knowledge, but the smart people know how to utilize that knowledge in various fields.
Correct.
So I think internship is very important.
So was this internship of yours paid or unpaid? Both UN and IUCN?
Both unpaid.
Unpaid. So now, the thing is, there are usually two types of internships that people look for. Either something as prestigious as the UN, where you are studying, so you do an unpaid internship, you get the certificate for that matter. Whereas actually three kinds, and the second kind is where you do an internship from a not so famous place but you get paid for it. And third is money is not a factor for you. You just want to do the internship no matter where, probably some legit place where you actually get to learn things. So you're doing it only for learning. But so what was your mindset like when you wanted to do this internship? Was it because like UN, so it didn't matter for you? Would the unpaid word mattered for you if it was like some other place which was not as famous or well known as the UN?
See, there are two strands to it. Firstly, after working, before that also I worked as an intern in India also. It's not that it was the first time I was working as an intern.
Yeah, you worked in presidency. Like you mentioned.
Yeah, right. All three of them were unpaid. There's this economics Nobel laureate, her name is Claudia Goldin. She said in one of her research work that all women work but not all get paid. I'd like to say that all interns work but not all get paid. The thing is, saying that the internship is not paid but I'm still willing to do it because I like it, I think it's quite a privilege to actually say that.
Absolutely.
Because it might not be that the person is necessarily living in that place if the internship is not a remote one.
Right.
For example, luckily I was there in Delhi, so I could do it.
Right.
So I think there are far more talented people, far more hardworking people.
Right.
They need that. It's the UN. They should pay it.
Right. Like, say, if any other person was living in Kolkata and not in Delhi, and they had got this opportunity, which
forget they even Kolkata, be it any small town, but they're extremely hardworking, extremely talented people.
They wouldn't have been able to pay for their rent and anything
because the cost of living is high.
Right.
So
relocating to Delhi was definitely not an option for them if
that
it
also
was
for
unpaid.
6 months.
Right. If it was unpaid. So do you think that it doesn't matter? Like paying, maybe do not pay in the first month itself, but after that they definitely should go into a pay structure.
They should go into the pay structure from the first day itself.
Right.
Like they are in this ivory tower syndrome that we are the UN or we are the boss, but we should not pay these people. I think that's wrong.
Yeah, because they are taking entrance exam, they are knowing how much you know, and they test it that okay, you are capable of it. So definitely they know very well that you will be able to do the work. It's not like they are just taking you in without any experience of yours.
I believe that if someone is working and putting in their number of hours from their precious day, I think that person deserves some kind of incentive.
Like even if you're a student, you have to come from a certain stable family to be able to do that unpaid internship.
That's what I said. Like you and I are privileged enough to go to places and then stay over there.
Because in India also the colleges don't really have on-campus jobs for students. Like in the US or the UK where they have various, like in the US they have a lot of options for students to work on campus, right? Of course for limited hours so that they can also focus on their studies during the classes are on. So when the classes are on, they can of course work for a certain hour and then also attend the class, and then they get time as well to do their assignment. But that on-campus job, whatever minimum they pay, but they still give them a pocket money to get by it, which is I think in some level very helpful to all the students. That's why students want to get an on-campus job during their study time in the US. So do you think that India should also incorporate this culture of on-campus jobs? Or because in India there's this thing as well, like in the US, not just international students but the students who are nationals of that country also have a lot of options of part-time job along with studying, and their parents or their family encourage them to go and do any normal job, which is fine. Like they won't look down on you if you do a job of a barista on any cafe. But in this country there's this mindset where you have to study and then get a prestigious well-paid job. Like if you get if you work in a cafe or if you work in a place not so reputable, you are looked down on. If you're working as a student also, you're looked down as somebody who doesn't come from that classy level. Like basically you are judged. So do you think that this mentality needs to be broken and students should be let on their own, given time to do part-time job in this country, balancing their studies?
See, I won't be saying that either of them is right or both of them are right or both of them are wrong. It depends. But the thing which I would like to say is the person needs to have a sustainable income to look for another job.
Right.
For example, if someone is coming from a small town, equally or more capable than us, and then that person is given some incentive while working during the internship,
right.
And then she goes over there, relocating to Delhi, and then she works. For the 6 months period she's working. But if she is not paid, firstly she won't be able to go there, and even if she manages to take some loan or something
right.
from someone, she manages, but she has to come back. But if you are paying that person, then that person would at least have that minimum sustenance thing,
after which they can look for another job. That is what I'm saying. Like even if say internships, people, I'm talking about students, like maybe the internship is over, but they should have like I'm talking about the mindset that you need to have, like students here study, finish their degree, and then look for a job related to their field, reputable. But even during the time as a student, like in abroad, students don't mind working in different sectors as a part-time pay, minimal pay. International students work on campus, national students also work on campus or do other part-time jobs. So they have this option, and their families are okay with them doing so. But in India, if you try doing a part-time job which is not so reputable, say, then people judge you or people look down on you. Do you think this mindset needs to be broken?
Firstly, I just want to ask you one thing, that what is the college hours over there in the US?
See, there are like, okay, so when I was doing my undergrad also, we didn't have like extended hours of classes. The difference is we had specific courses that we had to study in every semester. In the US, we get to choose whatever class we want to take in each semester.
Exactly. I think this is the main problem. I mean, we are trying to find the problem, we are trying to find the solution from elsewhere, but this is where they...
No, but again, what I'm trying to say here is that, but it still wasn't a specific 10 to 4 timetable. Like we had flexible class hours in St. Xavier's in Kolkata, and then in the US also we had flexible class hours. Yeah. But yeah, this is the thing, that what I faced in my department was that we had classes every day, whereas in the US the number of classes were less, so we had like 1 or 2 days off where we could put our work for a few hours on campus, and then also get plenty of time to do our assignments. So that was there. We didn't have classes every day, but nonetheless we didn't have like a specific timetable, like we didn't have specific like 10 to 4 continuous classes in either undergrad or my masters.
Exactly. I think the problem lies here, because at the end of the day, I don't think that either the parents over here or there want bad for our future, right? But the thing is that they don't want us to fail either. The thing is that in India, for our undergrad also, we had classes from 10 to 4. That means for half an hour you have to get into college, and half an hour post you have to get out of college.
You mean to say like maybe the time is very less here for us to do anything else?
And also the rigorous examinations that are taking place.
Right, true. Like there are, in my course, there wasn't, I think there was just in my masters in the US. Throughout my entire course, there was only one paper in the first semester that was a sit and write exam. Otherwise, everything was, because mine was journalism, where you have to like go out and you have to take interviews, write stories. So the rest were all based on assignments. So I needed time out of the class to work on my story, interview people, to write article related to that. So definitely, but in India, all my papers were sit and write, and there were various terms in one semester, like mid-term and then final term.
Now there is trimester also.
Okay, now there's like trimester meant like
it's in our term this semester 2 papers. I mean 2 exam seasons is 3 now.
Okay, so it's again way more. So I think the exam timings also keep students very engaged.
And also the thing is that there is this infrastructure problem in India. For example, when you say that we can do a part-time job, we are saying it from a very urban perspective. But now think of because 69% of India is still in rural areas. And there also people definitely go to colleges. Where's the job opportunity? It's not there. For example, I recently talked to a friend who is a doctor by profession now. He was saying that in villages, I asked why don't doctors after passing out, why don't they go to the villages and tend to work in the cities? He said that we don't have enough jobs there. Public jobs, I mean. So I think there's this gap between the industry and also the academy.
Now coming back to the importance of internship during your course of study, how important or how do you think can we bring in the practice of, and now it is already there, like universities are encouraging, but a lot of colleges do not give out options by themselves. Some colleges do and some colleges don't actually give out. They might bring guest speakers and all, but they don't actually give any option like this is available, that is available. So in that case, where do you think is it useful for the students to look up in order to apply for certain internships?
I would suggest you rigorously use LinkedIn. It's the best platform ever. You get to connect with the right people, and luckily they give you the right advice. I think people should rigorously use LinkedIn
and apply for jobs there. And if somebody wants to go into research, what is the kind of preparation they need to do? What are the things they need to be aware about?
Prepared. You don't need to prepare anything. You just need to have a hold on whatever you're reading.
Suggest some of the books that you read, some of the books that have helped you.
Not helped in getting me a research, but
helped in sustaining the...
in economics is definitely Breaking the Mold by Raghuram Rajan. In international relations, there is this book known as Clash of Civilizations by Samuel P. Huntington. I'm reading a book now, it's called Nexus by Yuval Noah Harari. And also I'm reading this book by Zia Modi. It's known as 10 Judgments That Changed India. So these are some of the books. The thing is, you have to diversify your area of interest and also go deep simultaneously. So
how much, like you mentioned, the percentage of research in India is really low. So if students want to indulge in full-time research, is it encouraging? Is it safe for them? What do you suggest?
Safe in the sense?
Safe in the sense materialistically safe. Like financially safe.
Financially safe.
Or the work environment, is it safe enough? The resources are good. Suggest on that.
Again, there are two aspects to it. Firstly, there is a lack of research mindset in India, and secondly, there is a lack of research opportunities in India. For example, I was offered a job for the role of research assistant in Canada from the UN, but I had to reject it for some personal reason.
Okay.
For example, which are the research centers in India? It's the TIFR, IISc, or the IITs or the IIMs. Apart from that, where's the research, the opportunities?
There's very few, you are saying.
The industry is not coming up with enough opportunities. For example, Google, Meta, they have their own specific roles for research people.
Right. Research analyst or something like that.
No, not analyst. Analyst is a different role.
Just research.
Okay. Researcher, That is missing in India.
That should come up in India more.
Yeah. And also, I think people should understand that there is this concept in economics. It's known as smile curve. It's very interesting. It's a curve. It's a parabolic curve where here on the y-axis it's the value added in the process of production, and in the x-axis is the stage of production. Over here it's the pre-production stage, which is basically the research and development. At the bottom of the curve it's manufacturing. And then it's in post-production, it's about marketing and brand creation.
Right.
So this theory says that the maximum amount of value that is added in a product is during the pre-production and the post-production stages.
Right.
Which is research and brand creation and marketing. But India as a country is trying to focus here in manufacturing with schemes like Make in India, PIL. So I think there has to be a shift in the policies for the shift in the mindsets to change.
Right. And what do you suggest? Like, we have almost come to the end of our podcast. So, what are some things that you'd want to suggest to people who are looking for internships right now, or who want to, get into UN or IUCN for research? What are some suggestions you'd like to pass on?
See, I cannot guarantee whether you would be able to clear the interviews of either, but I can definitely suggest that please read whatever you can and read it by heart.
Like, be informed.
I mean, don't read it just because I want to get there. Just read because you like reading it. If you don't know something, it's completely fine. Everyone does not know everything because there are many things which you know, which I don't.
Correct.
That's why people come in a group and work collaboratively. Second is be very thorough about what's happening around you. It definitely helps, especially if you want to get into these international organizations, because they will be definitely asking you questions from what's happening around the world and how you analyze it. So I think newspaper and following, I think I use Twitter a lot, X now. I use that a lot. I come up while scrolling, if I come up with any interesting article, I do give it a read. Apart from that, podcasts. Apart from your podcast, I watch Alex Connor and Amit Verma.
Okay.
They are a lot of informative podcasts.
Thank you so much, Rosh,
Thank you
for your
much.
time. It was very good talking to you, and we learnt a lot today about so many things, so many important things. So thank you for coming up with so many information and sharing this with us.
Thank you very much for inviting.
Thank
you have
you.
a lovely studio. Thank you.
Thank
Would
you.
love to come back again.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thank you.